Hello, I'm Regina McCann-Hess, President of Forge Wealth Management, and welcome to our Women in Wealth series. Today I have another friend with me, and Bernie, can you tell us who you are, what you do, and what you love about what you do?
Well, okay, Berni Stevens. I founded TruNorth Divorce Solutions, and we provide divorce mediation, financial advocacy for individuals, and coaching for individuals. What I love about my job, is that what you said?
Yeah.
Well, honestly, so this was not a first career for me. This was sort of a destiny, is the way I look at it. I was touched by divorce as a child of divorce, and I went through my own divorce, and I just felt like I had this calling. So what I enjoy most about the job and my career is truly helping people. Not that I don't want this to be, financially rewarding, but I get, that's kind of almost like a side benefit. But I really do enjoy working with people and trying to help them out through a really tough time. And I also know that that also has an impact on their children. So if couples can mediate their divorce or get some strong coaching and counseling along the way, it makes them much less stressful, and it just makes for a better home environment for everybody.
Yeah. And I can imagine as a mediating a divorce, I mean, I think I've seen all sorts of divorces in my own practice, and I have to say that when I'm dealing with a mediation situation, it definitely contains the emotions a little bit more, the highs and the lows maybe contained a little bit more. And I think people get to the other side of the divorce a little bit healthier than
Absolutely.
those, doing it the traditional way, I should say.
Yes, the lawyer route.
Yeah. And we love our lawyers, but it's just how people approach it, going through a mediation versus lawyering up, I guess you could say.
Lawyering up, yes. It tends to be a more adversarial experience, just by its very nature.
Yeah, that's the word I was looking for. I couldn't think of it. Yeah, adversarial. That's very good, very good. And then how, like, as going through that with your clients and especially with the people with the kids, do you find them, if they come to mediation, they're much more willing to work together towards the solution? Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. And, it doesn't have to be that they necessarily agree on everything. They don't have to particularly like each other by that point, but they do have to have a willingness to negotiate in good faith.
Mm-hmm.
And so they come to mediation with the understanding that they're going to work out what works best for them. They're not going to get 100% of what they want, but we are, as a group, going to find a solution that most benefits the entire group, meaning the kids, the parents, and the kids.
Right. And that's, just keeping the goals in mind, I guess, especially if there's kids, keeping their goals in mind for the, future of the kids. I think that would keep everybody on track for getting to a safe and happier solution. I don't know if there's a happy solution in divorce.
No, but there is a brighter future.
Right.
Divorce doesn't have to define us
Mm-hmm.
And the rest of our lives, but certainly in how we approach it can have a major impact going forward. Part of the mediation that I do is mostly financially focused, simply because that is my background. So I'm a CDFA, like you are,
Mm-hmm.
and which is the Certified Divorce Financial Analyst.
Great designation.
It is, and I'm also a certified divorce coach. Right. So the way I went into this was really looking at divorce as being something much bigger than a legal issue or a financial issue or a parenting issue. It's really all of those things together. Mm-hmm. And I think we need to, as an industry, better serve our clients in a more holistic manner with that. So my mediation, I do use my coaching skills in negotiations. I do use my coaching skills when we're putting together a detailed parenting plan as part of the mediation. And then, of course, there is the financial expertise around valuing assets and pensions and, making sure that you've taken into account taxes as well as long-term impact on the divorce.
Yeah.
With the financial piece of it.
For sure, for sure. And definitely seeing more and more people, using mediators and lawyers and, just more open approach to divorce. I think we're seeing a little bit more of that now. I mean, and it's a major life event. Aside from death, divorce is one of the biggest life events that you could have. And it can be traumatic. You can go through all sorts of range of emotions on it. But it's really good to have somebody there navigating you through it. And especially if, like you, being, using your mediation skills and your coaching skills to guide them through that to, a healthier, better solution.
Right, absolutely. We're seeing more and more second and third divorces these days too, which makes the financial piece of it even more complicated. And quite frankly, when we're going through a divorce, we're not our best selves usually. We don't make good decisions. So it is very helpful to have somebody guiding you along the way. And lawyers certainly have their role. There are a lot of lawyers today that are mediating in addition to litigating, but they haven't been trained in financial aspects of divorce. They haven't been trained as coaches and understanding the emotional side of it. And quite frankly, most lawyers don't want to act as therapists.
No.
And really, so having a coach, whether you're working with a mediator or someone like myself that does, wear multiple hats, or if you're even going to litigate, you should really think about getting a divorce coach. And certainly exploring other ways of divorce other than picking up the phone to call a lawyer who's going to litigate your case.
Yeah. Look at all of your options, basically.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So now I know you've had, this is not your only career, but over your career lifespan, what have been some of the challenges that you have faced as a professional woman?
That's a good question. I started in the business world in the 1980s. I'm probably a little older than you are. And that it was a very interesting time because women were trying to be men. We wore our little bow ties and all. And, it was an interesting time. And it was also a time when we as women, professional women, thought that we could do it all and do it all well. And I think that myth has kind of, deteriorated a little bit over the years, and not in a bad way. I think it's women especially tend to have more of a balance in their life between their personal lives and their professional lives. And so it was a bit of a challenge in that sense, especially when I started having children and all. But I always worked. It always seemed I was working in male-dominated fields. But it never really bothered me. I just, and maybe that's just a function of my personality, but there were challenges. I remember when I first moved to Philadelphia, I was 32 years old. I had 3 children under 2.
Oh.
And I took a consulting job in the city. So I was doing the Center City commute from Malvern every morning, sometimes dropping the kids off at daycare before I got there, and then making sure that I got out in time to pick them up from daycare, and heaven forbid that the train be late.
Oh,
but
yeah.
What's interesting about that in terms of talking about challenges is I said to, this was a Booz Allen consulting practice, very traditional. And I said, look, I'll be honest with you, I've got 3 young children. I do have a very helpful husband at home, but that's going to be, that's important to me. And he says, oh, don't worry. We've definitely made this a much more female-friendly environment. You won't have any problems at all. Well, of course, that was not the case. It was good. It was a good talk. They did not walk the talk. Yeah. And so I have run into situations like that, where it's just a little tougher.
Yeah.
It's a little tougher for women.
Well, thankfully, for your daughters and for my daughter, you know, their careers will be a little bit more focused on them and their needs and their family needs than it was for you and for me in the beginning as well.
Right.
Very challenging.
Right, and we really need to do that for both men and women,
Yeah.
depending on what their role is.
Yeah,
but certainly, yes.
Yeah, because they've even now, a lot of companies even offer family leave act for the husbands when they have, you know, when their spouse has a baby. So that's kind of cool too. So they're looking at the whole family, not just one side of the family. That's pretty
Exactly.
cool. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now, speaking of family and thinking about how we're all dealing with healthcare situations, how have you pivoted with your business during this pandemic?
Well, it's that the pandemic and my business, it's had some interesting impact in a couple different ways. One is there has been a higher incidence of divorce. Our time at home, you know, 100% of the time, always being at home kind of really raises tensions. And so we have seen an increase in the divorce rate. More so in terms of the way I do my work, though, is Zoom meetings, web conferences. Whereas 6 months ago, I could have asked someone if they would be interested in doing a Zoom mediation. They'd say, "Huh? What?" And now it's, "Oh yes, let's just do Zoom." You know, everybody can just do it from the comfort of their living room or their office, wherever they are. It makes it much more convenient for everybody. It really does.
Yeah, it definitely does. And then, you know, for me, I've been doing the same thing with my clients. We're doing a lot of Zoom meetings and things like that. And, you know, even when the pandemic's, you know, tidied up and, you know, hopefully cured or dealt with or whatever the answer is there, hopefully we're able to continue with Zoom for the people who really do like it and find it valuable, so they don't have to drive somewhere, or that, you know, they don't have to like come into the office. We don't have to go to them. I see definitely a big future in utilizing the, you know, the video conferencing that we've all gotten so used to during the quarantine.
Yeah, there of course been, you know, horrible outcomes around the pandemic, but I think this is one that's had an impact on society in a very positive way.
Right. And it also allows you to work with more people that maybe, you know, you could real estate wise, basically, you know, they weren't so close to you. It would be like, "Oh, I really want to work with her, but she's an hour and a half away." Well, guess what? Zoom doesn't matter where you are. You can, you know, work with the person that's right for you, the right fit to get you to, you know, where you need to be. So that's kind of a plus, a bonus of, you know,
There is. Yeah, right now my business spans Pennsylvania and Maryland.
Oh,
so
wow.
Where you see me today is I'm sitting on my sailboat, which I consider to be my second home in Maryland. And then, you know, a good portion of the time I'm in Pennsylvania in the Malvern area. So it just makes it so much more seamless, you know, to talk to clients that, you know, if I happen to be in Pennsylvania and I have a meeting with my Maryland clients, that's just fine. I don't have to drive the 2 hours. So it just makes, it really has kind of shrunk the geography.
Yeah, and I love that you're on your sailboat. I think that's amazing. What a great way to take advantage of, you know, the lifestyle that we're being forced to live right now. But that's a good way to do it.
It is indeed.
Yeah, gosh, good. Enjoy. So, so in line with that, let's talk about the future. What's your retirement vision? How do you see things going for yourself?
Well, the closer I get to the retirement age, so to speak, the more likely I think it is that retirement, I'll never really retire.
Right.
I just can't imagine doing that. But I can definitely imagine continuing to do what I am doing, which is blending lifestyle with my professional practice. So yes, I have a sailboat in Annapolis, but that allows me then to work with clients here in the Baltimore and Washington, Annapolis area, in addition to Pennsylvania. To, you know, as I get older and I have, you know, additional, as business grows and as I continue to bring on staff to support me, then I can, I'll be sailing in the Virgin Islands perhaps and doing Zoom meetings and that sort of thing. So I've always loved that. I owned another business years ago for about 15 years, and it was great because I could do the things that I wanted to do when I wanted to do them, and I still got rewarded for being productive. I got, it wasn't about FaceTime in the office. I didn't have to be sitting behind my desk, from 9 to 5 or whatever. In fact, I worked a whole lot more than that, but I got to choose when to do that. So I really see retirement as kind of continuing the path that I have been in. I will say though that in terms of preparing for retirement, I made a big financial mistake. I'm in a pretty good place right now, but when my children went through college, I put 3 children through college, private schools by myself. And I just, my thinking was, my business is doing great. I'll just go ahead and pay, the hundreds of thousands of dollars to put them through school. And then once they're out, I'll go do, I'll catch up on retirement. And honestly, I would never, as a financial advisor, I would never advise someone to do what I've done, right? Do as I say, not as I do.
Exactly.
We really don't know how life is going to, what kind of turn or twist it's going to take. So, yeah, I think in terms of planning for retirement, I could have done a better job. But fortunately, I like to work. So,
yeah.
And
you still have time, so.
Sure, absolutely.
And the great part about that is just from our private conversations, I know that you did place that huge investment in your kids, and they have grown and flown very successfully. So they're doing well. A tribute to you and what the sacrifices that you made for them.
They are doing well.
Yeah, but just remind them that
maybe someday they'll realize, they'll come to appreciate it. You know how kids are.
Right, no, because I remind my kids all the time. I'm like, especially if it's something I really don't want to do, but I'll do for them. I'm like, all right, remember, a good nursing home.
Yeah, a good nursing home. That's
a good one.
No, I want the carriage home on the back of the property. That would be okay with me.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah. Oh gosh. Well, thanks for joining me today. It was always lovely to speak with you. And
my pleasure.
Yeah, hopefully you get out on your boat this weekend. I don't know about the weather, but maybe there's a window there for you to get out. But
it's a great time of year to sail. So yes, I will.
Yeah, it is. It's gorgeous. But thank you. And thank you everyone else for joining us on our Women in Wealth series. Again, I'm Regina McCann-Hess, president of Forge Wealth Management. And I can be found at forgewealth.com and Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube at Forge Wealth, and LinkedIn, Regina McCann-Hess. One last question for you, Bernie. If somebody wanted to reach out and find you, where would they go to find you? How would they?
I'm also on Facebook. TruNorthDivorce.com is a great way to get a hold of me. And Bernie, well, I won't even try that because I don't have to spell it. Go to my website or look for me on Facebook. You'll find me there.
Awesome. And we will tag you in all of our social media, so you'll be able to find Bernie. All right. Thank you so much. Enjoy your day.